All right, let's bring in Matt Viser. He's Deputy Washington Bureau Chief for the Boston Globe, and he joins us now from Washington. Matt, let's start with that reaction from Attorney General Jeff Sessions saying he plans to continue in his role as the AG. What did you make of those comments?
Well, it's sort of that Jeff Sessions is more publicly loyal to President Trump than President Trump is publicly loyal to Jeff Sessions, I think. Sessions committing to still staying on, and sort of saying everything's fine, don't worry about it. So Sessions, may be embattled in the Oval Office, but he's sort of still publicly staying on the job.
So what did you make of the initial attack in the New York Times from President Trump? Do you think he was just sort of venting, expressing his frustration, or do you think he was sending another message?
It's probably a little bit of both. I mean, I think President Trump is consumed with this storyline and hard to get off of it. And I think that he boils over it, really. So I think as part of this is venting frustration and looking for somebody to blame for his current predicament. And so I think that's part of it. I think also, though, there's probably a message sent a little bit in this, maybe not to Jeff Sessions, but to Bob Mueller and others in the Justice Department world about getting too close to areas that Trump does not want them to get toward.
What else stood out to you, Matt, about that New York Times interview? It is remarkable that the president has this reputation of being someone who values loyalty, but we've seen time and time again, beginning with Chris Christie and now with Attorney General Jeff Sessions, even the senators that he was having lunch with yesterday, when he sort of remarked to one of them that they wanted to keep their jobs as they were trying to figure out how to bring a health care plan to the American people. In that interview, that wide-ranging interview, from healthcare to Robert Mueller to the comments about Jeff Sessions to Vladimir Putin, what did you make of all those comments from the president?
I mean, there was a lot in there, obviously, as you mentioned, but the Russia aspect of the interview seemed to dominate. Whether it's with Jeff Sessions, his comments about Bob Mueller, and kind of having a red line on not wanting Mueller to get into any financial issues of the president or his family that are not related to Russia, saying that would be a red line for him. He wouldn't sort of say whether that means he would attempt to pressure the Attorney General and the Justice Department to fire Mueller, but it did seem to approach kind of that area of obstruction of justice that people brought up before on President Trump. I was struck by that, I think. There was a lot of, he talked about Macron, and his trip to France, and that seemed to have a big impact on him as well through this interview.
Except, Matt, that the questions around President Trump's finances and those of his family in some ways directly relate to the Russia probe that Robert Mueller is investigating. In other words, the president, for example, has refused to release his tax returns. Many have posited, or many have questioned, whether or not that is because there is something in those tax returns that could connect him to Russia, although the president has very often stated that he has no business ties to Russia. But how can Robert Mueller not look into some of those financial dealings? And also, if you're a special counsel and you're doing this investigation and someone says, hey, don't look over here, isn't the first thing that you do is you look over there?
That's right. Yeah, and it's got to be an area that Mueller and his team will be interested in. If they are looking into Russia and Russian ties, you have Trump, having maybe not solidified business interests in Russia that we know about, but certainly pursuing them. And so he, in 2013, was talking about going into business with the Agalarov family, which worked with him on the Miss Universe contest in Moscow. So I do think that's probably an area that Mueller will be interested in exploring, and it's certainly a sore spot for President Trump.
On healthcare, Matt, we've heard the president say a variety of different things. He's tweeted and he said we should just let Obamacare fail, and then he endorsed McConnell's plan to at least repeal first and then work out the details later. And then yesterday we heard him mention repeal and replace. Do we know exactly where the president stands on healthcare?
No, not at any given moment. You know, I mean, he has sort of changed at least his tactical approach, each day and sometimes multiple times in a day of whether he wants them to do a repeal and replace bill and what that looks like, or whether he wants just a straight repeal of Obamacare. The latest iteration is back to repeal and replace, which I think strategically may be an area where they can still make some compromises and try and win over some of the Republican senators, like Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski or Shelley Moore Caputo from West Virginia on sort of where to head on this. And I think that is their latest strategy, is to try and go back to some of those senators and figure out if there's an area for compromise. Because the straight up repeal, which Mitch McConnell seems to be heading towards still, is almost doomed given the opposition to that.
Finally, Matt, just going back to that veiled warning from the president to the special counsel Robert Mueller to not stray too far from the Russia investigation. Many people thought that the president would not be able to fire the FBI director, James Comey. He didn't seem to be any huge political repercussions, at least not for now. Could we see the president of the United States, clearly, I mean, he could, it is within his authority to fire Robert Mueller, but if the president decided to go down that path, what do you think the implications would be?
I think they'd be pretty broad. I mean, so far Republicans in Congress have, they've been critical at times, but not en masse. They've been reluctant to openly criticize President Trump as it relates to the Russian investigation. And I think that would change potentially if President Trump tried to fire people in the Justice Department and obstruct the Mueller investigation. Mueller has a lot of respect among Republicans and Democrats on the Hill. So I think that would be a path that could backfire the way that some of his other decisions have backfired, as it relates to this investigation.
All right, Matt Viser of the Boston Globe. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.